Okay, hi, welcome everyone. We are recording and we're live on Facebook. So if this fills up, because we have over 100 people registered, so if it fills up, people are can go watch on Facebook. I know that doesn't help any of you because you're already here. So thanks for being here on time. We're gonna get started in a minute. Welcome, welcome.
Welcome.
Okay, I think we have 23 participants and I'm sure there are more coming, but I disabled the waiting room so now people could just come straight in. So I think we could get started. What time is it? Yeah, let's start. Okay, so I'm going to introduce myself real fast, although most of you probably know me already. And then I'm going to introduce Sarah, and then she has so much valuable content to offer. I'm so excited to hear her. So my name is Rena Yudkowsky. I'm a geriatric social worker and memory coach. My business is called Memory Matters. And I have put my memory improvement course online now. So I just finished teaching my first group online. We had 10 people from 3 different countries, which was so exciting. And we did a 12-week course and coaching program, and it was really fun. And what a special group of people. I love them. They'll always be my first group that I did online, because I've taught this many times in person, but the first time you do it online, it's special also. So this webinar is actually called A Matter of Purpose, and I teamed up with Sarah Hiller-Bersson, who is also a social worker and works a lot with geriatrics. And we found each other on social media and through the OU webinars that we both did. And it's really fun to find another fellow geriatric social worker. What I call us, the people that we just love to work with, I call it older people, seniors, whatever you want to be called. I call us Bubby Neshamas. We just, everyone makes fun of me that from a mile away, I can spot someone who's over the age of 60. So everyone laughs at me because I can do that. So I've been doing this for a long time. I think I've been in this field for 21 years or something 22 years, something like that. And I keep learning and I keep developing my own work. And you can check out my website. It's renayudkowsky.com. I can put it in the chat. For those of you that don't know what I do, you can look at my website. You can get on my email list. You'll get my emails. And we do a lot of these fun webinars on different topics having to do with memory and aging. And usually I talk about memory. So this is a drop different. We're going to a little bit be more about aging than specifically memory. So I'm excited about this. And I want to thank Sarah for reaching out to me and connecting with me. And I'm going to let her introduce herself and tell you exactly what type of experience she has and exactly who she works with. And we will leave time at the end for questions. If you have any questions, you can put them in the chat as we're going along, or you can save it till the end. Okay, Sarah, introduce yourself.
Thank you, Rena. Thank you so much. My name is Sarah Hiller-Bersson. I'm a geriatric social worker as well. I also really do love working with older people. I find that I love being surrounded by their wisdom and their insight and their experience. I found it enlightening and inspiring. I started in social work in Columbia Presbyterian Hospital and Mount Sinai Hospital, working with cardiac and amputee patients and vascular patients. And then I had the opportunity to get my clinical license. So I pursued that. And after I was granted my clinical license, I started working in New Jersey nursing homes. And the thing about clinical social work is we really focus on the emotional aspects of a situation. We focus on the, based on the social arena or the social issues that you're going through, how do you react emotionally to it, and help people not only with the social logistical elements that are involved, but also the emotional elements. So that's a very special approach too. So I worked in nursing homes for about 9 years. I worked in individual and group work. My individual work in the nursing homes, I worked with long-term residents and rehab residents, and we worked on things like change in physical status, change in environment, loss, decline, grief, and also finding meaning in who they now were, how they have developed into this different situation, and finding meaning in their life now. We also worked in group work, and we really touched on those things too. Just one note about group work. The benefits of group work, people usually go for individual therapy. The benefits of group work are so significant because when I'm talking to someone one-on-one, I can hear what they're saying and I can validate what they're saying. But when someone else in the group who has gone through the same thing as you're going through and has the same emotional response as you're going through, acknowledges, yes, I know exactly what you've been through and I had the same reaction, it normalizes the feelings. And by normalizing the feelings, you can then accept them, and then you could kind of move forward with a practical plan, an emotional plan. So group work is something that we worked on a lot too. And part of the nursing home experience really is working with a lot of patients in this new environment, in this new kind of dynamic and situation. And as I spoke about before, we worked a lot on finding meaning in life. And that became a very, very common theme that a lot of people worked on. And as you can imagine, when you go into a nursing home in an alternative environment, you no longer have the same purpose. Your life no longer has the same meaning. You're given everything you need, you're taken care of. And it's hard really to identify how you apply your inner strengths, your special personality to the situation to really make an impact and really have purpose and meaning. And so we worked a lot on that, and it became one of my favorite themes to work on. As we did that, we developed all different kinds of ideas. And when the time came, unfortunately, when Corona came and and the nursing homes were inundated with Corona, I could no longer work in the psychological fields within the skilled nursing facilities, within the nursing homes. So I decided to open up my own practice using the same theme that I worked with so much and that I so enjoy doing, of helping people find meaning and purpose in their lives. And so I opened up my practice. It's called Center for Purposeful Aging. And we're very excited to be there for people. We really are. One of the unique perspectives that I bring to therapy is that whole idea of helping people find meaning. You know, if you think about it, we start our lives and we're very good at what we do. And we manage homes, we have these careers, we run a family. And it really does speak, it's really reaffirming to know that all of our organizational skills, all of the passion that we have, all of these strengths go into a successful life. And we value these strengths, and these strengths are idealized. Our organization, our management, our love, our passion, our compassion, our sensitivity, they're all something that we kind of hold to our heart. And we know in our heads, in our hearts, that because we have these strengths, because we apply these strengths so successfully, we have self-confidence, we have self-worth, and our lives have meaning. But then what happens? Our lives change, and it's not a bad thing, but they change. And what happens is our careers kind of fizzle out, or we decide to retire. Our family grows up and moves away. And the strengths that we have no longer apply to the current, to our current situation. So what happens is people kind of reflect on it, and a lot of times they don't realize what's happening, and they say, like, I'm not worth anything anymore, or my worth has gone down, my own value has gone down. So what I work with people is to kind of get them to realize that your old beliefs, your old attitude, these strengths that you had applied in the past, they no longer have the same values as they did. They no longer can be applied to your new situations. And I help them let go of that. But by doing that, I also help them see that there's all these other strengths that they've developed that they maybe weren't using as much, like their wisdom, like their compassion for other people, like their generosity of spirit. And I help them really kind of internalize that those are the new values. Those are the new ways to define who they are and define how they impact the world.
I just want to stop you for 1 second, because what you just said is so powerful and meaningful. Mm-hmm. Because when we're younger, we define ourselves in a certain way, right? We do. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, what if you're stuck? What if you're bound to a wheelchair? What if, God forbid, illness strikes? You really can't do so much. But what we're saying is that there's so much inside. When you said the inner strength and the inner resilience and the inner compassion for ourselves and others doesn't go away. We don't lose that, right?
Right.
We just
So
have
a
to
lot of times,
focus inward more, right?
right. So it's not as, it's not as obvious. It's not as overt what we're really giving out there. It's so subtle, but we all know, because we've all have so much experience and insight at this point, how important those things are, how important it is to give love and to receive love, and for someone else to receive love. We all know how it's important to be supportive of someone else. And those ideas are so much, we need to kind of redefine how we look at who we are and how we're going to impact the world. And it's really, it's just a different perspective, but it really allows us, it really empowers us to understand how we are still impactful, to understand how we are still meaningful in this world. We have purpose in this world. For example, I worked with, let's say, an older person. She was very upset because she was a manager. She was a people person. She left her job because she actually had cognitive memory issues, and they had to put her in a nursing home because it wasn't safe for her to be out in the community. And I worked with her on having her understand that even though she isn't productive in the same way, her skills can still be used because she's a people person. And we worked for about a year on this, where we really identified her people skills and how she's able to create a social network within the nursing home amongst the residents to create a community. And it was such a beautiful community that she kind of helped rise up and develop. And it was lovely to see how, at a table, it was like 10 people sitting around a 4-person table because they all wanted to be around her because she was the people person. And she was so generous of spirit and sweet to everyone and supportive and asking everyone how they're doing, and it really spoke to her as, what was she doing? She was being a caring person. Do you think that has value? I would say it does. Do you think that she's impacting her environment? Immensely, right?
That's amazing.
So these kind of things, yeah. It was amazing. And even though she had cognitive memory loss, what was so interesting is people with cognitive memory loss, they don't realize that you still can really, you can help them internalize ideas, you can help them internalize messages. And what we did is not only did we speak about it every week, but we put up mantras, we put up little sayings all around her room to have her remember that she's a people person, and that she is someone that has friends and that gives support to other people, so that as she's walking out of her room, she sees a sign that says, "Be kind to others, make friends today." And she sees that sign, and as she's rolling out of her room, she was in a wheelchair, as she's rolling out of her room into the dining room, she's thinking to herself, okay, I've got to make a friend today. Who's my friend today? And even though people have some cognitive memory issues, they remember who their friends are. They do.
Oh yeah, you're reminding me of one of my residents when I worked in an assisted living facility in America. So this is like 21 years ago, and I was the head of an Alzheimer's unit. It was a locked unit, but there was a lady there who, she was a celebrity. Like she looked so much younger than she was. She had serious memory issues, but she was a celebrity. The party was wherever she was the party. And that didn't change. It didn't change with her memory loss because she was safe. She was in a safe environment. It didn't change with whatever was going on. She was the life of the party. People were flocking to her. She was acting and making everyone laugh, and it didn't change. And it was, as you were talking, it just reminded me of this woman. And she acted so much younger than she really was.
People, there's so many strengths that we haven't really recognized, that we haven't been able to play out and focus on and let them rise to the top so that we can apply them to our world. But really there are a lot of strengths, and we do have the potential to bring them out and to really make our lives great by using them, and to make other people's lives great by using them.
So Sarah, how do you help people? How do you help people either um, come to terms with a different identity, or come to terms with the aging process, or come to terms with, okay, I just retired now. What am I supposed to do with myself? Like, how do you help people figure out how to reorient?
So I approach every situation, with the kind of, especially someone has so many more years experience than I do, and the amount of wisdom they have and insight they have is far greater than what I have. And so when we start working, we recognize you have this insight inside of you. I'm going to bring it out.
Mm-hmm.
You have this wisdom inside of you. I'm just going to point to it, and then you're going to run with it.
Mm-hmm.
So what we do is really, we identify the values or the strengths that they used to use. And we kind of accept that, yes, those are valid strengths. They're overt strengths that they used to have, that they apply to the world. But then I say, but you know what? Now you're in a different circumstance. And slowly they understand that this is a new environment, and they let go of the old environment. When we speak about the potential of the new environment, when we speak about the potential strengths that can be applied to this new environment. So then we'll work with someone, and they'll be stuck on the fact that they don't have as much energy. So we'll say, you know what? You don't have as much energy, but we speak about how they still have their organizational abilities. And so maybe they don't have to rely on their energy so much. And they still have this generosity of spirit, or this kind of like social element to them. So maybe they don't have to rely on their energy so much, and they could kind of lean on someone else. And what people don't understand also is when you lean on someone else, it doesn't show your weakness. You can look at it as, oh, I'm weak, I have to lean on someone else. But what if I tell you, by leaning on someone else, you let that person do a good deed. By leaning on someone else, you let that person elevate who they are as a person to be a giving person. So yes, you're leaning on someone else, but what you're also doing is you're helping that person become a better person. So, we kind of offer these different perspectives. We really focus in on their other strengths and see why that is important to be giving out into this world. Slowly, we kind of work on it, and we really focus on it and help them kind of integrate it into their new belief system, internalizing it, and seeing themselves as that person. And eventually, a lot of the sadness, because of the lack of self-worth, kind of melts away, and their new self-worth develops as it's interpreted in this new strength. And eventually they really embrace this new strength and this new role. And it usually comes about that it's more of an accepting experience and really successful. They find fulfillment, they find contentment and happiness.
Yeah. A little bit you answered the question that I was just thinking, but maybe you have more to say on it. The question I was thinking was, a lot has to do with perspective and attitude, right? We know that.
Yes.
But what about when the default is negativity? Like some of us are just, more positive than others, right? Through nature and nurture. So you come across some people that are, 85 years old, and they're just really, really positive. They exude positivity. We know those people. But then you also have the people who are more naturally or by default negative and bitter. Mm-hmm. So how do you help the people where, let's say, it's not their default to be positive and to look at the good part and, to see the glass as, half full. So where people have just been through so much in their lives where that has sort of taken over, Mm-hmm. So is it harder to work with those people, or it might take does it take longer to get them?
Well, right. So it's interesting you said the people that have been through so much. Usually it's the people that have been through so much that have the better attitude. But in general, there's two approaches really. One approach is to be more subtle about it, kind of saying, well, if someone, has this kind of negative approach, I would say, well, what about if we look at it like this? Or I have a different view on the situation, and kind of start to say my positive perspective. But what we really need to develop is an awareness of our thoughts. And awareness, every person's life has negative and positives. And we could focus on the positive, or we could focus on the negative. And what you really need to do is understand that when you're focusing on the negative, you're developing a negative habit. You're developing a bad habit. And if you focus on the positive, you're going to be developing a positive habit. And to just get someone to kind of see the positive perspective and to think like this. And I'd even say, well, isn't it possible? And I'd offer, positive perspective. And hopefully they're open enough. If they're sitting with me, hopefully they're open enough to this alternative positive perspective. Mm-hmm. And if you keep on feeding the positive perspective, after a while, you can, from a therapeutic technique, you can have someone become more mindful and aware of the negativity. And maybe they start to have a more positive spin on things. It happens slowly. Listen, if you're having 80 years of being negative, that's a really hard thing to be positive. Right. But people do it, especially if they're sitting with me, they're motivated. People want to get better. They want to see a light at the end of the tunnel. And I also just say to them, try it. Why don't you try thinking like this for a day? See what happens. Are you happier? Does it put you in a better mood? Sometimes it works. It does.
Also, not only is it a habit, it actually creates new pathways in our brains, right? We're trying to make new connections always in our brains, right? That's how we try to fight the aging process, right? We have brain cells that are dying and we want to create new brain cells. And there's a lot of ways to do it. I talk about that all the time. But when you create positive thoughts as opposed to negative thoughts, so it's either challenging the negative thoughts or choosing a positive default thinking, it creates new pathways in our brains. And we want to be doing that, right? We want neuronal connections that are positive instead of negative. And it's the habit creates it. So there's a great saying, we create our habits and then our habits create us. So when you think positively over and over and over, guess what? You become a happier person. You do.
Yeah. We all hear about gratitude. Everyone should have gratitude journals. And actually in my notes, I mentioned, make sure you talk about gratitude. Mm-hmm. What is gratitude? It's it forces you to identify positive things in your life. And you're already creating those neural pathways of positivity. This is great in my life. That's great in my life. I had a great coffee date with a friend. All of these things, you're creating happy thoughts. And, it could be as simple as that, where you have this habit, this default of positive thoughts, and you develop it and it becomes the new norm. Yeah.
You mentioned a coffee date with friends. So can we talk for a minute about that, about socialization, friends, being with people, the challenge maybe now with that, and versus isolation? And because I think this has a lot to do with purpose and meaning. I mean, I know I get a lot of meaning when I'm with people. I feel very inspired and full when I get to sit with people live, which unfortunately over the last few months, we weren't able to do so much. And we're going, I don't know where all of you are from all over, but I'm in Israel and we're going into another lockdown at the end of this week. So let's talk about friends, community, purpose, isolation, that thing.
So we all know, we've all heard that having a social network is so important. And even, I think you could speak about this more than I can. The blue zones, they all identify having a social network as being one of the primary elements to living a long life, living a good life. So there's also this whole idea of these, you could say, why is that? Well, friends tend to put us in a good mood, and it tends to make us happy to give love and to receive love. If we're home all alone, we're not really able to give and receive love as much as, let's say, if we're sitting having coffee with someone. And when you're getting love, when you're giving love, that's really a stimulation to your mood. That's really a positive pill that you're kind of saying, I'm going to be happy now because I'm seeing my friends. I'm going to give them love. I'm going to get love. There's also the whole idea is when you're sitting and talking to someone, there's a lot from a neuro perspective that's going on that's really stimulating a lot of different parts of your brain. There's the conversational interaction, there's reading a person's expressions, there's the content of the conversation, there's even the back and forth, trying to figure out how to jump into the conversation, how to wait for someone else. There's also, and then there's the emotional element of the giving and the getting love. So important. So people ask me, is it something that is lost now because of Corona? And the truth is, it's not lost. You can speak to your friends over, Zoom. I'm so proud of my mom. After so many years, she actually got, she actually got a tablet and speaks to everyone over Zoom now. I'm so proud of her. And you know what? I can imagine I saw her struggling with the whole Corona, and it's really gonna elevate how she interacts with other people. It does, some people say it's not the same. No, it's not, but it's not nothing, So even if you get 60, 75%, you're still seeing your friends. They're still showing you their love. You're still giving them your love. It's so important, and it's definitely something.
I think, I agree. It's not exactly the same, but it's for sure better than nothing. A couple months ago, we made a friend's 50th birthday party on Zoom. And there were a lot of people on, and it was so much fun. Like we told everyone beforehand, wear a hat. Everyone had to come wearing a hat. And we had such a good time at this virtual birthday party. It was the first party I had done on Zoom, and I didn't know we could do such a thing. But it was so much fun. It was so engaging. It was definitely social. Now, it wasn't as much fun as an in-person birthday party, but it was really something. And I know there's several people on here that have been on with me before, which is amazing, because it means you guys are doing really good stuff by coming back and listening to things that are engaging for your brain and socially stimulating. And my mother's on here as well. Her video's not on, but I see her name. So my mother has totally mastered Zoom in an amazing way. She keeps herself very purposeful with her Zoom classes and lectures and webinars and everything she's listening to. So shout out to my mother.
Rena's mom. Speak a little bit about what's going on with Corona and the anxiety that people are experiencing too. We lived our
sound got fuzzy there for a second. Is that everyone? I'm hearing Sarah fuzzy now. Wait, Sarah, talk now.
Can you hear me now?
Okay, is she fuzzy? Am I fuzzy also?
Fuzzy. Very fuzzy.
Okay.
Log on. Sometimes this happens. I'm logging off. I'm logging back on. There's nothing I can do. I'll be back in a second.
Okay, do that. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay,
absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so sometimes this happens. Sometimes the internet goes down or the connections happen. She'll be right back. In the meantime, I'm going to tell you about the blue zones that she started talking about. For those of you that are not aware, the blue zone study is fascinating. The scientists found what I know of 5 blue zones all over the world. It might be more than 5 at this point. It might be up to 7. And the blue zones are areas where people were living over 100. So we call that centenarians. Are you back, Sarah?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, good. We could hear you, but while you went off, I'm talking about the blue zones. I just took up on that study.
Good.
So the blue zones were areas where people were living over 100 without disease, no cancer, no or very little stats of cancer, Alzheimer's, heart disease. And it was like, what are they doing right? How are they living over 100 without disease? And the scientists went to study these places, and they're all over the world. There's only one in America, and it's in Loma Linda. The others are in Italy and some other islands in other places. So what did they find? They found some interesting things. And of course, they found some commonalities. They were looking at the commonalities of why these people are living long without disease. And guess what they found? They found that they were eating healthy, plant-based, whole foods, healthy diets, fish, because it has omega-3. They were exercising. These people were not sitting on couches all day or at their computers all day, okay? They were moving. Even if they weren't like doing Zumba in the gym, they were bike riding, they were walking out to the fields. They also tended not to live in polluted cities, like a lot of us live in. And then they found that they also had community and purpose. They had a reason to wake up in the morning. So these people that were living over 100 without disease, they had much lower incidence of depression. They didn't get up in the morning and say, oh, what should I do with myself? I'm not worth anything, right? They got up and had purpose. Whatever their purpose was, they knew what they were there for. They knew what they were doing. Purpose and meaning in life, and community. Either they lived with several generations in the home, which was the way it used to be, or they made sure to have friends over or live in like, what do we call it? Like close, here we call it chamulas, not chamulas, but like that's like an Arab word. But like close knit village, villages. It wasn't like miles and miles till the next house, So they lived in close knit social ties, and they kept socially active and socially stimulated. These were the factors that they found help these people live well over 100 and healthy. And of course, the scientists were really, really interested in trying to bring those factors into the other places where we're seeing people aren't living as long or there's a lot of disease. So I told you a very long study in just a few minutes, but the point was that I wanted to bring out was that they were able to identify the purpose that these people had as one of the factors in their longevity.
When you talk about identifying purpose, it's obviously unique to everyone. It's not something that's always overt. So you have to think in terms of what are my strengths? And then once you identify your strengths, you say, what are my passions? What do I love? What am I passionate about? And then you look also at your values. How do you see this world and how you want to impact this world? How you want to interact with this world with your passions? And it really boils down to that. And a lot of us, we probably know maybe just under the surface what our purpose is. But when you identify it, sometimes it really kind of gives your life more definition, and it allows you to have more self-worth when it's identified, and you have more self-confidence when it has that identity, when it has that that definition to it.
I'm curious, Sarah, to push you on that. I want to know what people tell you when you work with people and you really push them to do this work, which is such important work and such meaningful work. What do they tell you? I'm so curious, what do they come out with as their purpose? Some of the ideas, just throw out some ideas to me.
So I have this one patient that I work with. She actually is a hairdresser.
Mm-hmm.
And she's 79 years old and she still does hair. And
wow.
So we started off and, she was nervous about getting older. She was nervous, maybe she's not as current on her hairstyles,
Mm-hmm.
but I spoke to her about, what else is she bringing to the table in this whole process? And she said, I've had clients that have been with me for 40 years.
Wow.
And I said, hold on a second. I said, I know you have one strength of cutting hair and being an artist. And she's, we see hair cutting as an artistry. So I know that's one strength. They said, but what about the strength of, being a person that people flock to? You obviously are offering them something other than cutting their hair that they're coming to you every 6 weeks for. And we really worked on how she has this lovely sensitivity about her, how she has this supportive quality, how she's a spinner. Like anytime something, a client will mention something horrible that happened to them, she always sees the silver lining in it. Mm-hmm. So we really spoke about, not only do you have this artistry, but you're a people person. And you have these people at 79 years old that have been with you for 40 years. And, they're looking to you as a friend. So that's one of your strengths too. And your passion is being loyal, being supportive, being caring and loving. And it really had her see this kind of new way of looking at her life. And it added value to it, especially, she's really surrounded by, a youthful market. She actually works in a salon that there are very young stylists coming in, and she felt very vulnerable. I said, but you have a following, and you need to recognize the fact that there's there for a reason, and there's value in what you offer. And so we worked really in terms of how to redefine who she was, and that she wasn't only giving beauty, but she was giving love and support. Mm-hmm. And it really helped her see things in a very different light. And it added to how she saw herself, added to her self-worth by not only saying to herself, well, I can make someone pretty, but saying also, I make someone feel good. And they come back month after month because I make them feel good.
So powerful. So powerful. I also love when people discover new talents. Like, it's always good to do what you were good at for many years, but then I also know people that say, oh my gosh, I didn't know I could draw or paint because they were so busy working or raising children or for, 50 years and then, or 60 years, whatever. And then they retire and they discover that they're actually good at something that they didn't realize. And then it's like a whole new world opens up to them, right?
Yeah, like this suppression of other strengths or inner talents, and it really does have them, and they apply it to their passions, and it really does help people redefine this next stage in your life. And it is a new stage, and we have to recognize that. We can't say, oh no, you didn't, everything's the same. It isn't the same, and that's something that is, although it's obvious, it doesn't mean that it's not good. Just because something changes doesn't mean that it's not good. To hold on to the old, it doesn't allow for growth. It doesn't allow for reaching your optimum. So
that's probably, let's go ahead,
yeah.
go ahead.
No, please.
So that's probably the first step of the work is letting go, right?
Yeah.
And that's
having them realize,
it's hard to let go.
Realizing that it's not helpful to hold on to these strengths, or to hold on to the way you're looking at the world, and hold on to how you used to interact with the world. Right. That no longer applies. That's not something that you it's not a dynamic that is currently in existence. So when people see that, they're able to identify alternative strengths. They're able to identify alternative ways to interact with their environment in this purposeful way.
Yeah. So what else? What are some of the other strategies or tools that you help people with? I don't know if we covered what you wanted to say in terms of strategies and tools. So I just want to go back to that because that's a practical part.
Well, firstly, we spoke a little bit about perspective, and that is so important in terms of what's going on now, especially.
Yeah.
Perspective is everything, really, how you look at the world. And it really, when you have a positive perspective, chances are you live a life of fulfillment and contentment. If you're having a negative perspective, you're probably, you tend to be miserable and anxious and angry sometimes, or depressed. In today's world, in what's going on with Corona, everything in our life has been scheduled, especially with Corona. We can't predict anything. We don't know when things are going to happen. We used to know that our grocery shopping day is Thursday. We used to know when our family vacations are scheduled, when our doctor's appointments are going to be scheduled, when our family weddings are going to be scheduled. We used to know all this and know that it's going to happen, and we're going to be there, and we're going to plan for it. Now, all of that is taken away, and it's not within our control. We can't predict anything. What happens when the anxiety starts to simmer, because we can't control, we can't predict, and the unknown, we're just afraid of the unknown.
So it's not simmering, it's exploding.
I'm euphemistically approaching it, but yes.
You're very optimistic.
So really we've all lived such a scheduled life, most of our lives, and now we don't have that ability to control, and most of us are anxious. So I wanted to speak about two things. Firstly, being comfortable with the control or the lack of control. Saying it's okay to not be able to know what's going to happen, and I have to be comfortable with that. And almost to say, you know what, I'm going to put my concerns aside, and I just want to be okay with it. And then you kind of turn and you use the perspective, and you say, you know what, the truth is I have a roof over my head, I have food at my table, I have people that care about me. And so it's okay if I don't go to the doctor for my regular checkup. I will go next month. Or it's okay if I don't go to a family vacation, I will go next year. And to be using this perspective, it's very helpful in terms of being comfortable with the unknown, being comfortable with things that are out of your control. Yeah. So I wanted to speak a little bit about that's important, how we all need that. And especially for older people, there's a lot of isolation that because of this, because of the people are being stricter because people are being stricter in terms of their being exposed to corona. And we have to always have people remember the resilience that's inside. This is happening, it's true, but have perspective. You have gone through so much, you will get through this, and things will get better. And if you need to say this to yourself every day, that's okay.
How about 100 times a day?
Yeah, that's okay. And then what you do is you say to yourself, when you're feeling a little bit better and you're at that neutral feeling, you say to yourself, wait a second, what are my strengths? I'm going to find something, or I'm going to create something to apply my strengths to all my passions. And hopefully you take steps and you apply also your creativity to this in terms of finding a way to live your purpose, even in Corona. Challenging.
Even if you're living alone, and people are quite isolated and lonely. But thank God for Zoom and the internet, because you can reach out to so many different people in so many different ways, giving and receiving. Yeah.
Zoom, I mean, it's gotten everyone through this.
Yeah.
It's
even
gotten
therapy,
everyone
like everyone's doing therapy on Zoom now. It's like, so you can reach out to therapists like Sarah. You know, even if you're feeling really lonely, really depressed, you don't need to suffer alone. You really don't.
Right. It is the new norm, and I hope people get comfortable with it until the coronavirus is resolved. And it's something that really works. Zoom therapy works. We've been successful for the past couple of months, and it really has helped a lot of people.
There's also the old-fashioned telephone, which I'm sure all of you have been using, which is just pick up and call your grandchildren, and you don't have to see everyone. You can talk to people on the phone still. And you can have meetings on the phone. You can have parties on the phone. You can have conference calls on the phone.
Just to stay connected. It's important to stay connected.
Exactly. I want to tell a really beautiful story just about perspective. When you were talking about perspective, which we know makes all the difference. I'm sure you probably heard this one, Sarah. I think it's a true story. It's about a 92-year-old little lady, short, very all made up, her hair coiffed, and she goes to the nursing home. Her husband died, and she had to go to the nursing home. And she was blind, but that didn't stop her from getting all made up and fancy and dressed with heels. And she was waiting in the lobby of the nursing home for them to show her her new room, and she had to wait a while. Now, if you would have made me wait a while, even at my age, forget 92, I would have been mad, right? But then her room was ready, and they come to her and they say, okay, your room's ready. Let's go in the elevator. And the lady starts describing to the older woman what her room's gonna look like and how pretty it is. And the woman says, I love it. And she says, but you haven't seen it yet, just wait. And she says, no, honey, I already decided I love it, because my happiness is not dependent on how the furniture is arranged. It's about how my thoughts are arranged. And I chose to be happy with my room, no matter what it looks like or what it has or what it doesn't have. And it's like such a lesson.
Yeah, that's really amazing. It's also amazing to me how people who either aren't therapists or have never been to therapy, sometimes I'll speak to people and they'll just say to me, no, I always take a happy perspective. I always find the silver lining. And I said, who taught you this? Mm-hmm. And more often than not, they say, my mother, my father. I love to hear that. I love to hear that.
Yeah.
It's so sweet.
Yeah.
So sweet.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just looking at the list of questions we wanted to cover. Any other, I want to open it up to questions soon, but any other thoughts or last things that you want to say that you didn't touch on?
Well, I just wanted to say the reason why I reached out to Rena and how our two specialties really coincide is because, like she spoke about, when people there's a lot of studies that identify when people find purpose, when they are able to define their life with meaning, it goes to show that their cognitive functioning improves by 5 or 6 years. And it's amazing to me to see it's not a pill that's gonna help you. It's just giving yourself a little bit of time to develop some insight into this. That's really going to help you. And it's really working on yourself that's going to help you live a higher quality of life and higher cognitive functioning. Amazing.
And it's a lifelong process. Like we don't really stop working on ourselves just because we retired. It's a lifelong process, and even more so, right? There's so much more to develop, all the things you didn't have time to do then. I always say, now's the time, all those things you put on the back burner that you didn't have time to do. Now's the time to develop the hobbies, the talents, to do the things maybe that, you know, that you couldn't do or didn't get a chance to do. And yeah, I just want to talk for a minute about the cognitive part. So even, Sarah and I were talking about this, even when we talk about someone with dementia, and I know some of the people on here have either cared for a parent with dementia or could even still be caring for a parent with dementia. And sometimes we think like it's really hard to, when someone really does have a brain disease, I'm talking about like a serious brain disease, dementia, or one of the types, Alzheimer's is one type of dementia or other types. Sometimes it's hard to find meaningful activities and a way to make the person feel really, really purposeful. So that I would say is like the most, like that's an extreme challenge. And you said you love when we get that question because you don't give up. You like, no, everyone has purpose. Everyone can be meaningful.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, hopefully you know, assuming that everyone has purpose. This person that has dementia was put on this earth for a reason. And maybe that reason has to do with, maybe they're not able to have a conversation about what's going on with you know, preparing for the fall season, or maybe they're not able to talk to you about the finances. But what they are able to do to you is give you love and to allow you to give them love. And as we spoke about before, that's one of the most important things out there. This person still, maybe they have a sense of humor, maybe they're just supportive, maybe they have a great smile and you see them every day smiling and you say, yeah, that's gonna put me in a pretty good mood every morning. Whatever they have, they're still here for a reason. And probably if you allow them to, they're gonna show you their purpose. They're gonna live their purpose. If you really think about it and you kind of look at it in that perspective. And you have to understand that generosity of spirit and a person and a human being, they're going to always have purpose. We just have to identify it.
So beautiful the way you're saying it. I love it. Thank you. And sometimes people with dementia actually are so insightful, and there's still so much wisdom there. If you take the time to sit there and really talk with them, which I did, you know, years ago. I haven't been working with dementia as much now, but just sit and talk with them. So much life experience, so much wisdom, and so much anyone younger than them can gain from it.
Because a person has short-term memory issues doesn't mean that they don't have wisdom, doesn't mean that they don't have insight, doesn't mean that they can't give you their love.
Right. Exactly.
Important.
And it's really important to realize. So I want to open it up to questions. I just wanted, Sarah, do you want to just tell us how people could reach you if they are interested in any of the services you offer? How can people reach you?
Yes, thank you. You could go to my website, centerforpurposefulaging.com, and you could just email me through my website.
Okay, great. And I actually, if you open up your chat, Sarah, if you want, you could type it in there. I actually typed in my website, which is renayudkowsky.com. If you haven't done this yet, go check out my website. I have some free webinars on there. I actually have a place that you can put in your email address, although I probably have all your email addresses already because you registered for this webinar. But if you want to forward it to friends and who want to join my email list, you'll get notified of any further free webinars I'm doing or any paid offers. I'm going to be doing some really exciting stuff after Sukkot. I'm putting together a membership where whoever's a member will get a one video a week on memory, a short video a week on memory, a brain exercise to go along with it, and then once a month we'll do a coaching call where we answer questions and talk about the memory videos. So that's going to be really exciting. And that's going to be the first time I'm putting it out. And I'm really excited to create that. So just get on my email list and you'll know about whatever's happening. Okay, so Sarah put in her email, her website there. My website is renayudkowsky.com. I'm also, before I open it up to questions, one more thing. I'm just going to cut and paste, copy and paste this in the chat because I did it further up before you guys came in. One second. This is a feedback form. At the end of this, I'm just really would appreciate if you guys would just give us some feedback. It helps us make the webinars even better. So I put there a link to a feedback form that when we finish this, if you don't mind just filling it out, and then it'll come automatically to me when you press the submit button. It's a Google form with just a few questions. It just helps us do a better job at meeting your needs and hearing what you guys want. Okay, questions. If you have a question, you can unmute yourself or you could type it in the chat. Those are the two ways to ask a question, either in the chat or you can unmute yourself and ask, because we're 25 people, so I don't think that's unwieldy to handle. Any questions? Any comments? Anything you want to add to anything we said? Any ideas you have about how to make life meaningful and purposeful? Is Jackie Lowenstein here? Jackie Lowenstein, are you on here? I think she was on in the beginning, but I think she might have had to leave.
Rena, we have a question.
Yeah.
What if you have trouble defining your purpose?
Oh, good. Excellent. You want to answer that?
Okay. So it takes a while to define your purpose. And it's really, as I said before, it has to do with your passions, your strengths, and your values. So you start off and you're identifying, what am I good at? Who am I? And then you go off and you're thinking about your passions. What do I love in this world? What makes me happy? What kind of wakes me up? You know, what really stimulates me? And where do I find that I'm most engaged? Let's say whether it's the environment or cooking or some kind of, or gardening, whatever you have, you know, and I was talking to one person that I was working with over Corona, and we spoke a lot because of Corona. We had to kind of modify her purpose. And a lot of her purpose revolved around her garden. And at first she thought to herself, just my garden? I mean, that's my purpose. And we said, you can't be hard on yourself. Maybe it's your purpose for the summer while, while your grandchildren are in camp or your family's going on vacation or maybe your purpose should be small for the next 2 months and it's just your garden. And so she took care of that garden, and every other day she went out, she deadheaded the garden and she was watering it every day. And the truth is, after those 2 months, and we always check in, like, how are you feeling? What's your mood like at every session? And she said, you know what? After those 2 months, she said, you know what? I know we only had that purpose of the gardening and to create a really pretty garden around my house, but it gave me so much joy. It really pushed me to wake up in the morning and to get going. And I was out in nature, in the sun, wearing a hat, but still, she was happy doing that gardening. It gave her purpose. It gave her meaning every morning. And you know what? Her neighbors kept on saying, wow, you have such a beautiful garden. Can you give me tips? She started interacting with other community members. So the truth is, even something, if you identify even a small purpose, and we probably have many purposes, so even a small definition of what you define as purpose, look what it gave her. And it was amazing. And she says, I had a pretty good summer, So
that's great.
You can't underestimate little things.
It's great. Gardening is also very good exercise, and it's also you're in the sun, which is so healthy. So that's great. That's great. Sorry, wait. Go ahead, Stephen. Yeah.
For Rena, how do I deal with somebody, or what's the appropriate way of dealing with somebody? A friend used to be a seamstress and was very competent, and she's now gotten much older. And now whenever I talk to her or see her, whatever else, the focus is her button collection. Mm-hmm. And not much more than that. Mm-hmm. And it talks about the newest button that she found for her collection. And it's pretty well trapped in that mentality.
Does she live alone?
Yes.
Okay. So it could be that she's very socially isolated and has withdrawn from a lot of things that she used to do, either because of age, depression, dementia. There could be so many different reasons why people withdraw from the activities that they love doing. So really it's about engaging, right? It's either you or someone has to help her engage in things that she enjoys doing, or a therapist, if she would be open to that. It's about reconnecting and re-engaging in the things that are really going to bring her joy.
But when you have the person who is really just so focused on the thing that they get their joy out of, and the focus, and doesn't want to do anything else, it's kind of hard, and it makes it very, very distracting.
Like very, very limiting.
Yeah.
So I think it also, Rena, can I just speak to
yeah, go ahead.
It is very hard to engage with people that have these kind of limited scopes of attention. It is very challenging, and but we can't give up, because we love them and we care about them. So we just keep on trying, and we are always introducing new things, but we have to we have to honor where their focus is. But the more she engages, probably the more potential she has to kind of incorporate other topics of conversation, possibly. More
Someone put on the chat a good idea. Someone wrote, show seamstress fashion magazine. So you can take her love for buttons and seamstress and open it up, show her the magazines, and and open and try to get her to discuss more than just the buttons. There's also another question here. Low self-esteem causes me to isolate. Call now. They must be too busy to talk to me. Will I stay on too long? I guess those are the self-doubt questions. Is that what it is?
Right. So I think everyone has a bit of anxiety, and it's probably being enhanced by Corona, because if you have some kind of low self-esteem or maybe some like social anxiety, which by the way is more common than most people think. The problem with social anxiety is one of the biggest remedies to it is to socialize.
Right.
And with Corona, that's all gone away. So you just have to keep on breaking out of your comfort zone and saying, you know what, I am going to speak to that person. And chances are they will want to speak to me, because they will, because they're probably, dealing with Corona and the isolation too. What you can do is you can say, you know what, no matter what, I'm going to be on the phone with them 2 minutes. And, if you pick a time and you say to yourself, okay, 2 minutes, whether I want to be on or whether they want to be on, we're going to be on for 2 minutes. And you kind of slowly do that and commit to a certain kind of concrete limit or concrete goal. Then it may be easier for you to focus on that concrete goal. But you should know that a lot of people that have kind of lower self-esteem or social anxiety are really struggling with Corona because there is no opportunity to combat and to really strengthen those muscles to motivate them to socialize.
Great, thank you. Jackie, stay on there. I see you now, Jackie. I want you to talk in a minute, but I just want to answer Shosh's question. Hi, Shosh. How are you? Unmute yourself. You're muted. Shosh, you're muted. Unmute yourself, and then we'll hear you.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi, everyone. This was wonderful, and thank you, Sarah Hiller and Rina for this session. And I actually didn't have a question. I just wanted to reinforce that in the 70s or early 80s, I wasn't sure about the quality of my friends that I had, and I was all my 3 children started to go to school. I had more freedom. I said, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And the very good friend that I thought will support me really tried to destroy me. Oh, what can you do? And so I want to refer you to a book I'm sure that you know or you heard of by Louise Hay.
Sure.
And Louise Hay wrote many, many books. She passed away just maybe a year ago, a couple years ago at 95, 96. But she still has people that the followers that continue to preach her beliefs, and the power is within you is a book that she wrote that had a lot of impact on me, because when I sat, she said, when you sit with a friend and for coffee, tea, and you get up and you feel worse than when you sat down, that means you walk away from this friend, because this friend will just bring you down. She is not a friend. So have positive people around you, and that's what I really focus on, to focus on positivity. That if people are destructive, if people are just disregard your things that you value, drop them. They are not friends for you, because it will not be good for your mental health.
Excellent. That's a great idea. It's a great idea. Speaking of positive people, I want to introduce one of the most positive people I know around, Jackie Lowenstein. Could you just tell us what you do in your spare time, please? Oh, I want you to tell us what you do in your spare time and how to go into Yontif season alone. Can you just give us those 2 tips? Okay, just unmute yourself so we could hear you.
Okay. Hello. And in my spare time, which is what I mostly have now, I love Israeli folk dancing. So I like to do a lot of folk dancing through the Zoom, but also I'm learning sign language, bridge, and various other topics, and lots of new things. It's very important to keep learning new things.
Yes, definitely.
I have seen Jackie dance live, not on Zoom. Jackie is an amazing dancer, and it gives her so much joy, right, Jackie?
Love it. I love it.
We call it Rikudam, or Israeli folk dancing, and now she does it on Zoom. She will not give up that dancing for anything, right?
Right. So now I'm going for walks in the morning, since I can't go to dancing for the last few months, but I have to stay in shape to be able to go dancing. So I go for a walk about an hour and a half to 2 hours early in the morning every morning, and again at night. So I'll be able to dance when I'm allowed to go dancing. Now about being alone for Yontif. So alone is if you're going to let yourself be alone. So I was alone for Pesach, and I'm going to be alone for all the holidays, but not really, because I'll set the table very beautifully, and I'll get all dressed up and fancy for Yontif. And I'm making lots of Yontif food, but just smaller portions, since my family won't be there. And I'll set the table nicely and have pictures of the family around the table. But also I decided to use my imagination. And since I can't be a guest and I can't have real guests, I can have any number of imaginary guests that I want. I can have as many imaginary guests as I would like, and whoever I would like. And I can have the greatest meals, very fancy meals. I made out a menu list of the most fancy meals. I don't have to cook them even, but I've made out the list, and that's my imaginary list. And I have grouped people according to people who would get along together. Like famous musicians, I have a whole group of famous musicians who are coming for a meal, and famous scientists, famous Torah figures, and famous comedians, and I'm making up my guest list according to different people that would match well, so we won't have controversy at the table. And I'm having a lot of guests, so that's been very fun planning, and it will make it a different Yontif.
Jackie, you are amazing, guys. How's that for creative meaning and companionship? I mean. Jackie, you should be well on Me'av Esther Shana. I just love your, Jackie has such positive energy and always has that smile on her face. I haven't seen Jackie in life, for a while, but we used to see each other a lot. She lives in Ramat Beit, and Jackie is just, you are my role model, Jackie.
Your daughter is a wonderful dancer.
Yeah, she is. My daughter dances with Jackie, so
Good dancer.
yeah. Thank you, Jackie. Thank you for
Welcome.
sharing that. There's nothing like hearing it from Jackie, right?
Shana Tova.
Have a wonderful year. Okay, someone asked, where do you do Israeli dancing on Zoom? It's on YouTube. What's it called again, Jackie?
Oh, Rookdim. If you go to Rookdim
Rokedim, that's right.
website,
Rokedim.
you can see hours and hours, years of dancing.
I think it's like this, Rokdim. I think it's right, Rokedim.
Rookdim, right?
Rokedim.
Wonderful.
I think it's like that. Okay. Surround yourself with people who enhance your life. Yes. What else does it say here? I'm in a loop. I need to work on finding my purpose and to socialize with others, but I just find I don't have the energy after all these months. I just want to curl up sometimes and have someone to take care of me. Oh yeah, I think we all know that feeling, right? You know what? Then sometimes we just have to find ways to do that. Find ways to pamper ourselves or to get pampered if there's any way, whether it's, I don't know if people are in certain places, but if you could go for a manicure or massage, people feel pampered by that. Through the past few months, there were times that you could do that, times that you can't do that, depending on where you live and what was going on. But I think we all understand that feeling that we just want to be pampered and not push so hard. And that's okay too. I think it's okay sometimes to say, I'm going to take it easy a little. I really think it's okay. And to be gentle. We're going through a really hard time and we really need to be gentle and compassionate with ourselves. That has been a theme among a lot of the groups that I'm in and the people that I hang out with who tend to be a lot of therapists and social workers and friends. And we just all talk about it's hard. These are hard times. And we need to be very, very compassionate. And sometimes you just need to not, push yourself too hard. So it's a fine balance between pushing to do all the good things that we know that are good for us, like exercise, and then just saying sometimes it's like, I just don't have the energy, or I feel like reading a book or watching a movie, or so it's just about taking good care of yourself.
I think also if you really want to approach it and try and resolve it or improve the situation, what you can do is you can say, well, today I'm going to have a quiet day, but plan for tomorrow,
Right.
And really plan things out and define things like I'm going to have a phone call with this person, or I'm going to go on a walk. And this way you're really kind of setting up and scheduling your day. Ironically, we spoke about scheduling before, but really structuring your day. And hopefully, you'll keep to that structure to help you re-engage. It's very easy to disengage during Corona. It really is. But we want to stay engaged in the community, in our lives. And if you structure and you plan for it and you make it easy, like even having the phone number right by the telephone, so this is the person I'm going to call at 5 o'clock, or sending a message, are you going to be home at 5 o'clock? Let's talk at this time, to make like a subtle commitment. It's going to help you, and you want to re-engage, because really that's what's really going to maintain your mental health, to stay engaged.
Right. Okay, any other questions or comments?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do.
Go ahead, Jackie.
Okay. It seemed to me from the beginning of the pandemic that we were being deprived of our freedom and our ability to go shopping and touring and a lot of different things. We can't get the things we are used to getting. And it seemed to me that what was happening was exactly what people are paying a lot of money for often. They want to go to pay a lot of money to go to the middle of India or the Amazon or somewhere where they won't have enough toilet paper and they won't have enough food and they can't go shopping. They're going to be all by themselves, and people are paying a fortune for this, and they look forward to it and they plan and they go and they come back and they tell everybody they did it. So I told myself I'm reframing. I get a free vacation like this. I don't have to plan it with a travel agent. I don't have to actually go. I'll have all the deprivation and all the being by myself, and I'll be able to tell people afterwards how I survived it. I did it. And it's just great. It's a matter of reframing a lot of the things.
Very true.
Yeah. That's amazing. That is a really creative reframe, I must say.
I also want to point out, these are all new ideas. It used to be before, but the first half of the 1900s, there was no second life. It was just like you worked and you worked and you worked, and you know, probably when you no longer had anything to do or you didn't really have responsibilities, you probably died. And so now it's kind of a new thing. You know, in 1950, Erik Erikson, who's the grandfather of modern day psychology, developed these 7 stages of psychological development. And the final stage, where he describes it as 60 plus, was, I think it was called ego integrity versus despair, where you reflect back on your life and you just make an assessment on whether your life was meaningful or not. And he came up with these ideas in the 1950s. And in 1950, people worked till 65 and then retired. But their life expectancy was 67. So they had 2 years to really develop, they didn't have time to really develop this kind of idea of what they want to do the second half of your life. Now, thank God, people are living 30, 40 years. And we have to be emotionally prepared and psychologically prepared for this new phase of our lives. And it takes creativity, but the potential for really a fulfilling life and the potential for happiness is there. We just have to really embrace it and work on it.
Hi, Rena, this is Jeanette talking.
Hi, Jeanette.
Hi. I just want to say, as you were both talking, and I enjoyed both of what you were saying, is that I've made a list of 16 things that you were talking about, things that I'm going to look up and on the computer or whatever, you know, the awareness of thinking, and you use the word perspective. I'm going to look up all these things to give me some new ideas. And I also like to have a lot of pretty things around me. I mean, if I see something that's very nice in a magazine, I'll take it out and I'll hang it up on my wall also. I just like pretty things, colors and everything else. So it's been very informative what you're saying. So it's, I appreciate it.
You're going to be very busy now. I would love to hear those 16 things. Maybe you should send me the notes.
I was thinking of doing it. I was thinking of doing it.
Email me the 16 things, and then you're going to keep very busy researching those things. But I think that's a great idea to surround. The second thing you said was to surround yourself with things that are pretty, and especially if we're like, I don't want to use the word stuck in our house. What's a better way?
No, I don't like that word when people use stuck.
What's a better word? Sheltered in our house. I don't know. We're going to be in our houses for a while. Surround ourselves with pretty things. So I love that idea that you said, to cut out pretty pictures or print out pretty pictures or go buy a pretty plant or wall hanging or something while you can. And that's a great idea.
I will send you the list of what I wrote down. I think I found, I found little things that I wouldn't have thought about to look up on the computer. And I always, one of my grandsons used to say, he always said the ability. I said, you have the ability. I was called Mrs. Google, because if I have something that I'm thinking about, I will just Google it to see if there's something about it.
Well, you'll find a lot of things about the different ideas we talked about.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's great. Thank you, Jeanette.
You're welcome.
Thanks for sharing that. Okay, we are, wow, it's 6:15 here already. Okay, thank you so much for joining us. I hope that was helpful. Thank all of you for your insight. Thank you, Sarah, so much. You added so much like richness and happiness and positivity and optimism. Like when you talk to Sarah, you realize that like you really don't have to grow old and be sad and do nothing. Like that's just not the script anymore for growing older, right? So thank you for helping us with that perspective and that reframe and that insight and the positivity. So feel free to reach out to either of us through email or our website. I'm on Facebook. I have a group called Memory Matters. This is being streamed into there. So if you're in my group, you can watch the replay in there. Oh, the replay is going to be sent out, please God, tomorrow to all of you that registered with that feedback form. So if you didn't get the link for the feedback form in the chat, which you could still go now to chat and click on it to fill it out now, or it's going to come with the replay tomorrow, so you can fill it out then and send it back to me. And I want to wish everyone a happy New Year, Shana Tova.
Yes,
everyone should be
Shana
happy
Tova.
and healthy.
Amen.
And we really appreciate that you've been with us tonight. And
Thank
we're
you.
wishing for good times ahead, healthy, happy, good times.
Amen.
Amen.
Okay,
Shana
take good
Tova.
care,
Shana
everyone.
Thank you.
Tova to everyone.
Be well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.